And here we go, folks. I have Dr. Hanna in our show. I'm super excited for our chat today. We'll be talking about her life experience, career, and also professional insights. I met Hanna actually through the social media. I'm very honored to have her with us. And thanks so much, Hanna, for accepting the invitation to be interviewed and to take part of this project with me.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's actually my pleasure to be on the show, and thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to have this chat with you.
Hanna, usually I always ask the guests to introduce themselves with their own words. So please, who is Hanna by Hanna? Who is Dr. Hanna? And what do you do?
For sure. So I go actually with Dr. Engineer Hanna because I want to include this portion that I do have my doctorate in engineering, and that's quite something that people do not share these days. It's either you're a medical doctor or you're nothing. So what I wanted to share is my mission as a woman in STEM, as someone who has battled the fronts of being in a male-dominated career, but at the same time having the exact same qualities, if not more, and showing the world that with my passion for engineering and for building smart biomedical devices, how we can revolutionize healthcare. So not only you're addressing the medical care, but at the same time, you're bringing another knowledge from the engineering point of view and how we can change things for the better.
Oh, wow. What an introduction. Well, it's really interesting because you actually is originally from Iran, right? And you are currently in the US. How was this transition and why the US? I know that you've been more than 10 years already in the US. And why, like from Iran to the US, why did you make this choice? And how was that transition? What was any cultural shock? How was your findings in the beginning?
Yeah, that has been quite a bit of a story because I grew up in Iran and that was by chance and like family planning. But at the end of the day, when I started college, the world just completely changed for me because I was accepted to the best school and to the best university in Iran, and I had everything I wanted, but I had to leave everything behind and start from square zero again in the US. So just to follow with my dreams and building a future that I had imagined for my family. And everything was quite different because like starting from language, everything is so different. And even in my culture, it's like everybody's like so luxurious. Everybody's after like brands and they're like making names. But then you come to US, it's like you're living your own life. If you're wearing brands, it's on you. If you're not wearing brands, if you don't have a luxurious life, it's still you're a human being. So nobody judges you. And on the other side, it's also that my upbringing, I'm used to seeing like more girls actually in the engineering field and like they get the opportunity to be in more of like these engineering fields. But coming to the US, I realized how little the population is, especially for our female students. And like within my class, for example, I was like among the two girls in a total of like 50 male plus class and like starting to make friends with them. And then at the same time, showing everybody that you deserve to be in the class as much as they are, it was a whole battle by itself.
That's quite interesting because I remember when I was younger, for example, I've done robotic, but it was in a technical school, was not in that level of like college and so on. And it was like massive, dominant by males, like by boys that time. Like, I think we had like between 50 and only three girls, and two of them they gave up, and only one girl survived
Oh, wow.
in this battle. And it was funny because she actually like we had a really good relationship with her because she was like the queen of our class, and we treated her like with no difference. Of course, we shouldn't, but what I'm saying is like I presume for her, her perspective was totally different because it's supposed to be much more challenging, among males, and now like what to do, Did you find any barrier or like challenging for you to find yourself in this ground, and how it was, and what helped you to overcome it?
It's so true. Like I completely get that because it's like, how are people seeing me as a female in this field? So can I still dress up and go to school? Because like then everybody's like just wearing shorts and t-shirt and nobody's like dressing up. So are they gonna just see me that I'm not putting as much effort, but it's like I woke up at 5 a.m. to just get ready. So it's like even as simple as that, everything is like so different between the genders and like the views of like how things are. Even biologically, like some days you're just not in the best, not just mood, but just the best energy. And
Yes.
nobody's understanding you. It can be just like that little headache that you have, and nobody's understanding that. And you still have to put on a smile and still strive in the class and like work hard to still get that good grade. And nobody can like change the exam schedule because like you're not feeling it or you're under the weather. You just have to be working so much harder. And that makes it actually like a little bit more different compared to how it is for a male dominated environment. Actually, also something interesting is like even in our buildings, still like you would imagine this is US, like everything is so equal. But even in the engineering buildings, like every other floor, you just have like one women's bathroom and everything else is like very male
Oh my
oriented. So
God.
it was quite a bit of a shock to be like, okay, now I need to even plan for the bathroom, not just like as simple as proving myself to my peers.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Many people dream of moving abroad and living in a different country, but I think some of them also underestimate the challenge, like the emotional challenge that they can face. For you, did you find any emotional challenge when you came to the US, and how did you find like a way to get rid of it? Like, how did you overcome from that? Did your parents support you, or did you find new friends? How was the way? What's your path in this period?
That's actually quite different for like how you start a whole new life. First of all, you lose all your friends because they're just abroad and they're like thinking so different from what you are experiencing right now, and the experience is quite different. So not only you learn that how you need to be networking now with new people, with new cultures and with new backgrounds, but at the same time, you learn that you're so alone in everything that you do. It's like your job is your own job, what you are aiming for, how you're applying for jobs, how you're going through classes. If you have any failure, you're literally on your own. Even family, like I'm thankful to them, like they're emotionally there, they can listen in, but there is so much they can do. And it's gonna be eventually you against you in this whole battle. And that was the only toughest part, that you need to learn everything. Like you might be in a system to learn, okay, now I need to go to school. I need to connect to these people to find this specific job. Now your whole system and the whole environment is changing. How people are finding jobs is so different. How people perceive you is going to be so different. Do they have any biases against your culture, like who you are? And even these, you need to learn how to communicate your strengths to actually overcome these biases. So that makes it even more challenging. And this is what people should be looking forward to as a negative part and also the positive part of immigration and maybe going abroad.
Do you consider yourself like an introvert or extrovert personality? Like, do you think yourself can like make new friends easy, or you have like difficulties like to get into it?
Thing that I'm struggling with still today. I'm like, people do give me energy, so I seem to be an extrovert. But at the same time, when I'm alone, I enjoy it, and I'm like, okay, I'm happy in my own bubble. So I'm kind of like in the middle. Sometimes I can be quite an extrovert, and then on the other days when I'm like super like out of energy, then I can go back to my intro.
Okay, so it depends on the moment, I would say.
Exactly.
Explain to me, because again, this whole scientific environment, this whole thing of healthcare and biotech, for me, it's novelty. Like, again, I have a very little contact, and I think most of the regular audience also have a very little contact. Like, what happens in the daily basis of your work? Like, what you do? Like, what's exciting about what you do? And if you can tell us, like, just a little bit of a scope. How is our routine in laboratory, or your findings, and the risks that you might have that we don't, because we don't have like full contact to the experiences and tests, for example, and how after everything you see that, like in a medicine, for example, or a vaccine that comes out and you see like the result of it, how you feel as well, being part of this whole chain of moving forward and helping people with that, with your work. Are you enjoying the episode? Please don't forget, turn on the notifications, whether on Spotify or YouTube. Don't forget, give your like to the episode on YouTube. That helps the algorithm keeps reaching new people that might be interested to this episode and get new insights. If it's on Spotify, make sure by the end of the episode you leave your review with 5 stars. That also helps the algorithm understands to reach new audiences based on this feedback. The last but not least, give your comment. That helps me to understand your feedback, your opinion, and your take on the episode. Other than that, let's keep enjoying this episode together.
What makes the day-to-day life of a scientist, actually a research scientist in this field, is you have to figure out, first of all, what is it that's missing in your field. So it's easy to get swamped in all the ideas that are coming up. But what matters is, first of all, you have to make sure that your idea is going to be helping some people. So what is the issue at hand, and what is it that people do require right now in the field? Then the next thing is finding the good collaborators in the medical field to be collaborating and like bouncing these ideas with them. So you need to have extensive discussions with the medical professionals to see, is this disease even worth exploring? Is there a cure for it? And then where can an engineering mind come in to change that system right now? So in addition to that, then you need to think out of the box. So what can I do that it's more compatible with the human body? It's not going to cause like extra parasites to be generated. And then at the same time, what are the protocols that you need to develop to make sure that you can test your system? So it's not as simple as, let me just test it out on a rat and then we'll see how things work out. Right. It might be quite interesting to know that even for the rats, we do have a committee that they make sure of the well-being of the rats. So they make sure you don't put them under too much strain, too much pressure, and they're not going to be harmed during your research process. And this is all for the well-being of the animals in addition to the well-being of the human beings. So with the research, you have to be very cautious about what is it that you're choosing. Is it ethical? And is it going to be helping more people? Or can it have possible risks that down the line it can harm somebody in any way?
It's much more complex than I could imagine. Just also like following up on this, doing the test on animals like rats or rabbits or even monkeys, I presume nowadays, like, they don't go for a hunt, like, and hunt these animals anywhere. Like, they are producing laboratory as well, right? Or, like, I presume they are like made like in a specific farm. Must have like a supplier which provides these animals to like scientists to make this test. Is that all right? What I'm saying?
That's correct. Yes. So these animals need to be brought up, and actually they go through a process of like regeneration and controlled within the lab. So we need to make sure that these are the healthiest animals out there. So it's not like as simple as you can contact your own farm and like you ask them for like some maybe rats, and like they can give you maybe even like some chickens or like some pigs to test on. So they need to be lab grade and a specific weight. So even if they're like a slightly overweight, they cannot go through certain experimentation. So all of these, like their ages, when they were brought up, and it's also important that like they do not separate the children from their parents. So they need to be grown up to a certain age until like they can be qualified for being like within the test. And we're responsible for like how many animals do we have even within our test. So it's not just like as simple as, oh, let me just test 1,000 animals and I sacrifice them at the end of the day. It's not that, and we are like so ethically concerned about that to make sure we do not have any animals be sacrificed at the end of the day for any, unreasonable reason or for an unpredicted research outcome. So we need to make sure that we take care of our animals in the most proper way possible.
Wow, that's impressive. And out of curiosity here, how many hours do you spend, like, an average, or did you used to spend, let's say, when you were a student, researching and find stuff? Like, I presume it's must be crazy amount of hours, like per day. How much of yourself you had to dedicate for it?
Even if you're a student or if you're a professional scientist, the hours are not going to finish. And that's actually the hidden part about it, because everybody talks about like the night shifts and like they have to like stay over like a couple of hours. But what is hidden about like this scientific route is that your day doesn't have a limit and you don't have a shift. So as long as there
Wow.
is a research project, you need to be working at it. So for me, a typical day, it starts at like 8 a.m., finishes at 8 p.m. Sometimes I have to stay even like at 12 till 12 a.m. And like I have even slept like in my own research lab to make sure that I can do the sampling like throughout the night, and you're not going to be skipping any of our samplings or like any of the experimentations. So it does require like some shifts even outside of the hours, or like elongated shifts, just to make sure that your research product is going to be effective as you have expected it to be. So these are the hidden things that never like came across and like nobody talked about, but at the end of the
Right.
day, it's beautiful and it's worthwhile.
Wow. Look, biotech is a very fast moving area, right? Because it's all the time changing, it's improving, the virals and everything. It's improving as well. So you guys have to keep up to date, very fast, and actually very fast. We had recently COVID, and that was, I think, was one of the biggest challenge probably you guys as a scientist faced recently. But what you like? What was the main reason that pushed you to choose, to pursue this career? Like, what was your inspiration, or who was your inspiration to become like a doctor, engineer in biotech? And, what was the reason?
For sure. So this was actually somewhat of a personal touch and also something that I found a cause for. So when I started my undergraduate career as an electrical engineer, I figured, okay, there are so many things that like technologically I can develop, and like these are all the smart home devices. All our like things are like, hey Alexa, connect this, turn on the window, like turn on the lights, like open up the window. Everything is like so different. But what is it that I can do? And it can be more effective when I lost my grandpa to a heart attack. And I figured, hey, there were markers that could have been monitored a lot sooner and prevent this heart attack. He just walked out of a heart doctor's office and he just had the heart attack.
Oh
So
my
I was
God.
like, this is so ridiculous. And we need to have something to help us monitor the patients, like cases, biomarkers, and like how are they doing in day-to-day life. So for that reason, I thought it would be my place to come in with my knowledge of engineering to help me connect people from the chemical side who design good sensors, connect them with the doctors, and bring in my circuitry, bring in my knowledge to activate each of these sensors, and then enable a long-term healthcare for patients. So whether you're in Africa, whether you're like in South Asia and you're so away from your doctor, and your doctor, let's say, is in Europe or in US, and they need to be monitoring you for some reason, or just the healthcare in those areas may not be accessible. Even like in mid US, sometimes like you just don't have access to good doctors. So with this method, at least you can give out the electronics to these patients and monitor their health status over the period of the day. And they can just come in for one visit one time during the year to see how their health has been all throughout the year. So if they're going pre-diabetic, they can figure it out sooner. We can bring down the cost on medical care because we're just understanding, we're learning about patients' health much, much faster. So we can provide the care much sooner and help people have a much healthier lifespan and less need of seeing doctors or taking medications, or even taking their medications on time and properly, but just help them be more healthier and more well taken care of.
Wow. First, I'm so sorry for your grandpa. But it's very, very touchful, point that you made, like that situation put you in a reflection of what could you do better and how you could help others with that. No, so you just used your pain as a motivation to help others, and that's actually very respectful as well. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for Grandpa. Now, as someone that is deeply involved in science, how do you see biotech shaping the future, especially in areas like health and sustainability? Because now we also talk about like in a sustainable world, we are very concerned like if you're gonna last, longer in this planet. We are now trying to explore. Mr. Musk is trying to explore Mars. But from your perspective, like how your environment, like your work environment, impact on that, and what if you can also share with us like any type of insights on this?
For sure. So healthcare and biotech was something that, like a couple of years ago, the main leader of this field, Bob Langer, who was teaching in MIT, he came up with this field as like something revolutionary, and nobody believed in him. And everybody was like, okay, yeah, you're not going to become a professor, you're not going to make it. And now you just look at all the universities, and bioengineering is one field that keeps getting added to different universities. So this field normally comes with a vision that nobody can see, and it's more like the scientific like movies that nobody thinks like is it going to be realized at the end of the day or not. But where I see it going in my specific field is to make healthcare more accessible to more people, and cutting the need for having a specialized doctor in like certain areas, or overworking the doctors. So then we can bring down their energy into more spaces and more efficiently, and at the same time saving a lot more life. So it shouldn't be that we do have boundaries for like where you're living, but at the same time, it should be that you do have equal access to healthcare all across the world. So how is it that you can access healthcare in a certain area, but somebody else in another area cannot? So this one can hopefully help us with having more equity in healthcare, and at the same time making human beings a lot more smarter about their health and their well-being, so they can live a more well-satisfied life and have a much healthier lifespan, hopefully.
All right, and that's really interesting. And by any chance, do you guys use AI in biotech, like in your research? Does AI actually it's helping you guys now to get faster with your researches, or no? Like it's not reliable yet.
It's actually a very hot field right now in biotech, because first of all, like AI can help us as an agent to help us with certain tasks.
Oh,
But aside from that, it's actually helping us a lot with designing some of the drugs. So that's the aim for one of the companies that we're working on right now. And it can help us get to the solution for certain drugs much faster. So if certain cases like COVID happen, and this way, at least we're going to be able to find the solution way faster compared to the hassle we had to go through for
wow,
those couple of years.
that's impressive. And do you see like AI as your friend or as your threat in the future in terms of like professional role? Like, because I know, for example, I'm a marketeer, right? And some of my tasks, for example, can become like irrelevant over the years with more and more development of AI. Of course, it's on me to take it responsibility to keep improving myself and managing the tools, etc. I'm just giving like an overview what's happening, and I see a lot of people now in the market like complaining about I'm going to lose my job for AI. I always ask that to professionals because I like to listen the overview as well, like one thing in this. And in science, I did not expect that AI could be like reliable enough, for example, to be a tool. But at the same time, that's my question. Like, is that a threat for you or is your friend?
More more of a double-edged sword. So in some areas, it can help us get to the solution way faster because with the wealth of information that we have, it just helps us sort through the solutions way faster, design that protein, design that drug way sooner. So then we know what is best like fitting into the design or the structure of the virus. So then we can quickly attach to it and then resolve the issue. And we can much easily like simulate certain drugs and like how fast the process of care is going to take. So it's going to be like much more effective. But on the other side, I don't see that AI will take the place of like certain bioengineers very soon because it comes with the knowledge and the expertise. So it's not easily replaceable. But on the other side, I do see its effect onto if people do not use it ethically to generate like some data and to try to compete with people who actually know what they're doing in the field. So it does require, and currently we do see that in NIH and NSF, they're asking for data. So they do not take any research for granted anymore. They're like, you do need to show us some repeatable results. And that's actually for the better. So then people cannot fake the data. And the only problem we may have down the line is just that. So as long as people can keep it more ethically, or like if AI becomes just more accessible to professionals, then that would be the solution to help us just keep it more accessible just to the people who deserve it.
Wow, that's a really interesting. And I know that on your social media you talk about women empowerment, and you are like one of advocates for that. Working in your industry, and I know that you already mentioned in the beginning, what's the biggest challenge that you think that you still face being like a minority, and how like you could advise other women, like, don't be afraid and take the chance, become a biotech like scientist as well, and join me in this environment, in this war.
Let me do a little motion. Making sure this thing doesn't turn off. So we can go back to now how women feel. Okay. That's actually a good question, because for women and what can help them make a voice and stand out, I do see that we actually did have it in a conference recently, that we talk about when women apply for a job, for example, they wait till they make sure they are super qualified for the job and then they apply. But when we do see that among our male counterparts, they, even if they do have certain things already checked out, they would apply for the job and then be like, hey, I'm going to bring it, I'm going to learn about it, and I'm going to be challenging myself in that environment. So what we need to make more for our women right now and for our girls is to let them be more confident and know that, hey, it's okay not to know everything. Just don't be too detailed oriented as we are as women. So it's better if you just focus on what is it that you can deliver best and just go after that, and don't hesitate to link to other people and develop a good network. So then this way, at least you start to make a connection, you start to make a voice, and then people are going to recognize you, and you start to learn more skills. You start to build your own strength. And that's what's missing right now among our girls. We just need to have a lot more better confidence among our female generation right now.
And coming from a different country with a different cultural background from Iran, did you face any like barrier and being a woman in your industry, and how did you navigate through that? Like, how did you come up with a solution for yourself?
For me, as a woman in this field, it was a bit tough to say, I'm going to get it done today. So I always had to have like a second thought about what are people going to think about what I'm doing. So is it going to look good or not? Or am I going to be good enough or not? If I fail, what would people think? So I just needed to clear this out of my mind, that forget about what people think, start to make your own voice, start to make your own impact. That even happened with my social media. I didn't think, like, I was like, should I be there? Should I not be there? Would it have an effect? Would it not have an effect? So it's double thinking everything was a second nature to me that I'm still struggling with, but it does require like some work to get it out of my system and then be like, hey, Just get the good job that you're thinking right, and then everything will happen right after that.
And how this idea of social media came up for you? Like, and why as well? What did you like? What was the inspiration that came in your heart and said, "Hey, you should talk more about empowering other women and to go through and join you in the science industry." What was the inspiration, or was any big idea? Did you see anything that you know turned on in your brain that, oh, okay, you know what, I'll take uh this flag and I'll carry on passing through other generations and to the future.
I appreciate this question so much because this is so close to me as a cause for this whole activity that I started. So my aim was, I was thinking I have trained more than 200 students at least throughout my educational academic
Wow.
path. And throughout all of this path, my students came to me with saying, hey, I came to your lab with working with you, not knowing a single thing. And now I know how to lead people. I know how to be a teamwork specialist, how I need to work with like teams, how I need to be like connecting what I'm learning in classes to my research. And now I
Right.
do have a passion for what I'm doing and I can present myself better. So my aim was to share this about like, what is it that you can do to be more professional, to stand out better, and then to talk about your cause better. So social media, I feel like these days is going like tangent and like people are using it for not so interesting like paths. So I
Right.
wanted to be that person who does make some difference and can help some people who might be thinking, hey, I do have a future and how can I make that future happen? Or how can I find my own cozy environment and like link online to connect with, and at the same time learn how to be more professional and how to have a better effect on my world in my own way.
Wow, that's really impressive. Do you have any piece of advice for probably a young woman who is listening to us right now and probably is undecided if should take the path as a biotech scientist or not? What would be your advice and what would be your words of encouragement?
I would say don't double think it. And whatever you do, just start to connect with whoever that is within this field. So people like me, myself, I'm making myself available for people to reach out to me and ask their questions because I have worked for this path, fought my battles, and I have come this way. So I would be so excited to be sharing this path and like helping anybody in any ways. And I'm sure all the other women or all the other professionals in this field, they're like so excited to have people connect with them and ask their questions. So if you have a passion for it, definitely do reach out, make a good connection, and don't think it a second. Just start working and things are going to come your way. The opportunities are going to come your way and you're going to make the difference you're aiming.
You mentioned as well, like your routine is quite intense, right? You work like around the clock. How do you find like life balance, And what do you do out of your work environment? I know that you do some exercise and activities, right? How do you organize yourself, your routine? Like how is Dr. Hanna just Hanna out of work environment?
It's this idea of work-life balance is something that one of the good psychologists was talking about. You can't never have like an equal work and life balance. It's just all about what is it that you're focusing on. So there is only that much that you can spend time on. And for me, to be honest, up to like my 28 years old, it was mostly focusing on my profession and then teaching and then learning everything like professionally and then developing my own network and then building a strength. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be talking and communicating with my friends, with my family that, hey, I'm not going to be spending so much time at home or maybe like attending like family events or like friendly events. I might not be able to go to this like game night at the end of the week. I'm just going to be working during these times. But after this year, after I'm done with my focus, then definitely we can connect again and then like have our socials and my workload is slightly will be like changed, so then I can focus more on like exercise, for example, or like other activities. And that's actually like how it happened. It's just about like how do you manage the expectations or the commitments. And at the end of the day, sometimes like you have to sacrifice some of the things to build up the empire that you're looking for. So it's all about like what do you put your focus on.
Do you have any habits that keeps you like in a high productivity level, or do you have any tips as well that you could share? What you do to manage everything and how you deal with that?
To be honest, you don't always like, you're not always on your forte. You don't have like everything always figured out. And for me, it's the exact same way. But how I learned to manage it is, first of all, like coming from the biotech background, I used to monitor how my health status is throughout like the year. So, for example, if I get sick, how long does it take for me to get well? So what do I need to do? And like what makes me feel better sooner? So then I would just do that. And what is my coping mechanism? Okay, if it's like taking a day off and then I work from home, or like maybe just taking a little bit more sleep and then I start working and I can even work much harder after that, definitely I'm going to give myself that time to heal. And then I come back with a much stronger passion and the love of what I'm doing. So it needs to be that you shouldn't be hating your job. You should be always very compassionate with your own body. So if your body is giving you any error that, hey, I'm just like in a frustrated mode or I'm too stressed out, definitely talk with it. It's okay. Take your time, take a yoga class, or like just sit down for a second and then think about how you can go back. Maybe you just need to have like a little break, and then your health will be at a much better space. And that's what I do to cope up with like having a hope and continue my life.
Look, you being like you're as a scientist, do you think you have on your hands like a power that ordinary people wouldn't have to control and manage your energy and your focus and your, like everything, because you know the back end. Like, let's talk about, imagine that we're a computer. You know all the codes and everything that you have to do to get like the high performance, and to how to rest properly, how to medicate yourself properly, and what the best food, what's this and that. Do you think your knowledge also helped you in somehow like to improve yourself in this sense, like, or you think um Hanna and Dr. Hanna, they're two different people? You don't separate, you don't let like your knowledge, professional knowledge, conflict with your personality in a normal environment, like in a regular environment out of work.
I feel like that's actually what makes me love my job, because we're not two different people. All of this knowledge is what has helped me make the connection with my own body. And I'm going to be sharing a lot more about that on my future post on my page to talk about like what is it that I learned out of my research to help me understand what is going on with my body. Because even as simple as like the differences of like day and night, I could easily see through my research results that how a spike of cortisol can change our mood, like in a totally different way, and how it changes for a woman versus how it changes for a man, and how it changes throughout the whole day. So it was very exciting to see that, oh, so I need to be focusing my energy and my power like during these hours, and then like I need to be resting during these other hours. And when you learn that and you have that education under your belt, I feel like that's a privilege that we do have compared to our previous generations.
Confidence, self-confidence plays a key role in our daily lives, especially, for yourself, as you said, like you're a minority in your industry. What was the biggest shift, like mindset shift, that actually helped you to grow into the person that you are today?
That, to be honest, keeps challenging me like throughout different decades of my life. I feel like when you're in your 20s, you are a lot more prone to getting people's admiration or like approval in what you're doing. So your self-confidence is so tied up to how other people think. And that comes naturally into like we have been grown up by our parents. So what do my parents think about me? But let me give you that insurance that if you think something is correct and it's not hurting anybody, and it's not hurting your life. So definitely go after your passion and don't think about what is it that people are going to think about my work, or like how I'm going to end up, like, would my job be good enough and would that make me enough income? I wouldn't be thinking that anymore. So I would just be thinking, what is it that Hanna is aiming for, and what is it that Hanna is excited about?
And what is the habit or belief that you think every single individual should have, you know, to become the best version of themselves?
I would say that would very much vary based on what is people's profession, or like their field or their interest in life. But the only one habit I would say is that you care for yourself and for your own growth. And if that habit is you compare yourself in the month of January to your version of February, then you can say, hey, I have grown just as much and it has not been the same. And giving yourself this space to grow, and don't bite yourself down if you didn't make that much of a progress as much as you expected. It's completely fine. But as long as you do make that like little change, that's going to be just completely fine. But do make that change happen.
And with your social media platform that now you're building and bringing more content soon and starting this whole project, what's the legacy that you want to leave, and what's the impact that you think you're gonna, like, in the future, you're gonna cause in biotech with that? Like in the most optimistic way, like in the best of your dreams, what's your vision on that?
My hope is that I can inspire more people to live with a passion and with a better knowledge of what are the tools they have available to them, and that the life is not just as simple as, am I making just enough money? It's all about like, what is it that makes you passionate, and it changes the world for the better.
Right. Throughout this experience, how is actually being a scientist and also at the same time a social media creator, like with this whole thing that you've been doing? I know must be conflicting a little bit, probably. I know, like, you just leave the laboratory and then suddenly you face yourself. I have to record a video. I have to prepare this content. How is that for you?
True. Um, it's been, to be honest, a bit more challenging than I thought so, because at the same time you do have this burden of how am I gonna look in the workplace? Like, is everybody gonna be like, hey, she's on social
Right.
media, so what is it that you're doing? So are you gonna be like the typical like beauty blogger or like something like that? But at the same time, you're like, oh, I do have a passion and I do have a mission to help people become better professionals, and at the same time see that, hey, they're human beings, so they can connect with me on more of a personal level. And I had to kind of like overcome that and then be like, what is it that I need to show about my work and about what I'm passionate about? And at the same time, come out of my scientific role and think out of the box about what is it that people who are not in my field can take away from my work. So it's been partially challenging to at the same time put in the time for it, but I feel like I'm starting to make the changes that I'm looking for. So I'm so excited to actually make more and more time to put out more information.
Do you think there are, like, in your perspective, there are more scientists making content, or you think like you are one of the very few, like of course, there are always a lot of people doing a lot of things. Do you think in your role, for example, in your industry, in your niche, like it's not very well explored because probably for scientists in general, like whether they don't have time or they have like a very busy mind or like lack of interest, like they don't explore because they say, like, it's not my thing. What am I doing here in social media? I don't want that. Do you think in this way? Because perhaps is my algorithm as well. I don't see much about. I've seen a lot of doctors. I mean, like GPs, creating like beautiful content, and psychologists also creating beautiful content to help people, and some of also specialists like for cardio, and so on, but not much about biotech in general.
True. And we do see a lot of medical doctors and like psychologists, a lot of psychologists like giving out tips, even if they're not in the field, they keep like putting out information, like
Yeah.
dating information even. But I feel like people in my field, even if they do start like something, they make it so probably dry and hard to connect with that maybe just like, okay, people are going to follow it just to be able to, you know, overcome the university applications, and that's it. So for me, it's a little bit more different because I want to bring in the tools. So if you're in any profession, you can directly use it for your own profession and stand out. And it needs to be about how you're presenting yourself and how you can be a lot more professionally communicating what you know. And unfortunately, I don't see that these days. So that's my hope that hopefully I
Mm.
can make some time to develop it better.
Oh, wow. For those listening to our episode today, what is the like where they struggling, probably with their own journey and also their own challenge, whether in career, lifestyle, empowerment. What's one piece of advice that you'd leave for them today?
For me, leaving this comment that if you do have a passion, just go for it. Don't wait for the perfect time to arrive and for you to be prepared. If you think there might be a chance, just start it. And worst comes to worst, it's going to fail, but you have learned something new. So if you don't start, you have just not tried it. If you have a passion, go for it.
Oh, wow. Powerful. Related to a bit more deeper in this sense, imagine now you had like a big banner or an outdoor, that could be seen from all over the world. What would be our message in one
What would be the passion or like the message that someone sees if they look at my profession? I think my message would be living with the passion and living it right. So that's what I hope, that if somebody looks at it or looks at my mission, then they can remember me with just this message. Even if I'm not on planet Earth tomorrow, I hope that people can remember me with this message.
Oh, that's great. It's a beautiful way of thinking. Now, how you think is the best way to connect with more professionals like you, especially for students who want like to learn more, to get more in depth, like how to reach out? I know that you have your social media, but for example, with the others, what would be your advice to build like network?
I would say start locally. If you're in a university or if you're in a school, then definitely connect with your professors, with industry relations who do come in and visit your university. And the third and the most important is obviously LinkedIn. So don't give up on LinkedIn. Just search for different fields and the professionals in those fields are going to pop up. Every person has like their own like little blog posts that also like they share some of the information. So don't hesitate to send out a note and then connect with people, because that's the best way to connect with the professionals in any field.
Oh, wow. Now I'm surprised because I could not expect that scientists are out there on LinkedIn. Like, usually you see more business related professionals on LinkedIn, right?
Sure.
Again, it's a new finding here in this episode. I'm learning a lot from you, the perspective of a scientist on things. But good to know. You know, and you're on LinkedIn as well, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, very good. I'll leave on the description your LinkedIn holder so people can connect with you as well. I think you'll be amazing. Not sure if you run any kind of projects as well on your LinkedIn, like in terms of posting as you do on Instagram. But if so, like I think you'll be great help for these people.
For sure. On LinkedIn, actually, it's more of like, personal consultations that I provide, and like I help out people. I also do help out with the students, so feel free to definitely reach out. I'm more than excited to help you out. But like on social media too, is a lot more friendly. So I do also like provide information. So it's the same Hannah here and there. So as they wish, they can reach out for any question.
That's really good. And Hannah, what sports did you practice? Like, I know that you mentioned, I think it's kickboxing that you do. It's anything else, or is just kickboxing?
Well, I started with like rollerblading, and I still to this date I love rollerblading. And just this like 2 years ago, I started doing kickboxing, and I really loved it. And so I'm also like doing that on the side. Everybody might be like, "Oh, it's like kickboxing." But trust me, if somebody knows how to like do self-defense, they're actually a lot more friendly.
Oh wow, okay. And did you start as hobby or was like more self-defense or it became like
As a
both?
hobby, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Tell me, what's your favorite movie? Do you have any
Favorite.
favorite movie?
I do. I do actually like love a lot of like crime scene investigations, and like these days actually I do binge watch this series called like Rookie, which they're
Okay.
like the LAPD rookies, and they do have like different cases that they go after. So I really do love like any puzzle related like movies.
Do you feel when you are watching something like related to science, you know, that's all, this is actually bullshit. So like that's not real, you know? Do you do
Most
that as
of the
well?
time. Yeah,
Okay. Because there are things I think they're like so, how can I say, so fake. Like even I think ordinary people like me would spot that, right?
exactly. Exactly. Like these FBI movies, like you look at them, they're like, oh, they click a couple of things and like the whole background of a person appears and like it shows where they are in the world. I'm like, hey, there is not such a thing.
Okay. Is there any book that like marked in your life and you would suggest to people to have a read because um that caused an impact XYZ in your life? And if there's a book, which one and why?
There are a couple of different books that have shaped me in different ways, but probably the most important that addresses anybody's like focus in whatever stage of their life is a book called The Power, and it does have like different tips on like what are the different focuses like in life and how you can become a lot more powerful in what you do. And I do quite like appreciate it. It's actually a very chunky book, but at the same time, it's the bestseller and it's having like a lot of good points that people can carry with them.
The Power by who? Sorry?
Let me actually search that because I don't know.
That's interesting.
If I was good at remembering names, I would be a medical doctor.
It's
So,
by
let
Naomi.
me- by Robert Greene and Just Elfers.
Okay, good, good.
Laws of Power, the 48 Laws of Power. So if you want, I can repeat it.
Very good. Good to know. I will be sharing that as well in the description for everybody. And last but not least, if there's a song that also inspire you in your best version, which song is that? Like, and why? Like, is there any memory or specific reason? Could it be also like in your language, by the way?
Okay. So the musics are quite a lot, but because I'm a pianist and I actually do listen to quite a lot of like piano plays, I think the best one can be this music called, we call it Foray Taragon, which is like the rush of the stars. And it's by the violinist Homayun Khorram. He was actually an engineer who became
Mm.
the best violinist in Iran. And he actually used to be my neighbor. And we had
Wow.
quite a lot of like discussions. And he was such a sweet man. So I think like his legacy and what he has played is the best. And his music is actually very inspirational.
Oh my gosh, like that's crazy.
Yeah. I can actually give you one of the links if you want. You can include like
Please do.
the play. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm impressed because he was your neighbor or if it's because you're a pianist. Like I didn't know you never mentioned that in our earlier conversations, and I couldn't relate as well. Interesting.
Thank you.
At,
Yeah.
which age that you started?
So I started playing piano when I was actually 9 years old, and my whole like family from like my mother's side, they are actually artists. So my grandma actually does like some painting, and my great aunt, she does teach piano, and my uncle actually plays a santur, which is like a musical instrument that like they play. He's also an electrical engineer, but he also like does play this instrument. So They are quite like artistic, but I ended up like being the engineer.
You had a lot of inspiration around. Oh wow, impressive. Well, that was great insights shared from you, Hannah. So good to have you in the show. I feel like I learned a lot. I always say that to every guest, but I do mean that to everyone because at the start of the each of episodes, I have like some questions in my head, some questions that I take notes and some curiosities as well around each personality. And I feel that each of you adds so much value, not only to me, but to any listener, because sometimes we have this judgmental thing in your head that we see someone on social media, on the street or anywhere, and you think this person is not like so friendly, or this person actually is kind of arrogant. And sometimes I think that's the best opportunity, like to have conversations like that, and you see like, oh my gosh, look at how incredible this person is, like this story, and how inspiration that person can be, and inspiring that person can be, and how much I learned from that. I'm saying this because it's funny. Most of the time, I came from the Navy. Like I used to work for the Brazilian Navy, and most of the time, my face is always like serious, and people judge me by that. I don't smile much on the street. And turns out like I made like good friendships around, and people say, "Oh, you're so friendly, it's so cool." And I said, "Yeah, but you never approach me." And I try don't approach people. I'm very like reserved in this sense. So that's how the podcasting started as well. Like it wasn't a way that I found where to share stories from incredible people like you to others, and to also show like different perspectives, like, oh, look how many cool things you do in your profession and like your life story, and how many people you can impact, and you impacted already, and you've been impacting in your daily basis. You mentioned about your students, you mentioned about your colleagues, and also your family. So this whole chain, around you have like some of a piece of Hanna, with them. And this episode has a piece of you right now, and that will be like definitely a good asset for whoever listen and take your advices and your insights into practice. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the insights um, and like ideas shared here with me. I'm very honored
Sure.
and glad for that.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. It has actually been my honor, and I'm so glad that it could be getting across to some people who may motivate them. And that's actually what I'm trying.
And for those who still not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel and give your like to this episode. Don't forget to leave your comments below about what you find know about this episode. What was the biggest insights that you are taking away from today? And please do follow Hanna on social media. On Instagram, you can find her as dr.engineer, dr actually .engineer Hanna, double N. So make sure you follow her on Instagram. She shares a lot of insights and great content there, and she's bringing like a beautiful project, coming up soon. So I'm super excited to look at that. Count on me for that, Hannah, as well. Like you'll have my support, and thanks for being here in the show again.
I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much.
And that's it, guys. I see you next time.